World Wide Web. So I'm Cypher Sigma Toys, and here we are for another Talking Toys episode. So this is episode 2, to follow on from the one that you would have seen, I think about a month ago now I put it out. So the first one was, or these videos are basically where I take a subject about toy collecting, and then we talk about it. So the first one was why I collect, and we're kind of going to cover a little bit of what was in the last video. In this one, this is going to be what I collect, and kind of what I collect and why, which kind of links into why I collect, and I did cover some bits into it. So my process, or my always kind of opinions, have been on toys. Some stuff I got as a toys, obviously you get given as presents. I don't ever remember requesting specific stuff. I always remember just getting stuff from that I may have liked. From memories, I remember like my first toy that I have it. So from the Wuzzles, I have a Rhino key, and my memory from that when I was like 3 is me going into my mum winning a prize and I getting that. And then when I spoke to her, like I think last year on it, she was like, no, that didn't happen. It was like in a toy store or something, and I think she got it for me. But I've still had it since I was 3. I have him. He's a Rhino key, but he almost been conditioned, and then this little teddy who has like a cookie and a phone and he's called Ben. Those are the 2 toys I still have from my childhood, because I think they were appealing to me in my mindset, and that is always how I've been when it's come to kind of my choice on toys. I always like what looks nice for me in my eyes, and if a toy line doesn't look good, and I think that's part of the reason why I never had any He-Man. He-Man was 83 I think it was, so I was even once, I was probably maybe too young, which is why I missed that. I mean, I did watch the cartoons and have watched the cartoons since, and I do like the animation style, but it's not the most appealing visually to me, and that's how I work. I collect a lot of comics and stuff, and I read a lot of stuff. I like the visual interpretations and pictures of stuff. So from the cartoons as a kid, if I was really drawn into that, I can really enjoy watching the Transformers back now, even though the animation isn't as good. But when I watch He-Man and stuff like that, I'm not enjoying it as much as I do some of the other ones. Visionaries, absolutely love and stuff. Never had any of those as a kid, just because of rarity and stuff. And that's kind of how it was as a kid. I was brought up mainly with my mum until like 7, 8, when my stepdad, or as I class him as my dad, was now. So we never had a lot of money, and I was only given toys and, not given much. When my dad came along, obviously he did treat us. Obviously I did get an Ecto 1. Unfortunately that's gone many, many years ago. I did get Countdown, so I did get Transformers and stuff, and I think this is where I started to get more into the Transformers side of things. And Transformers has kind of been a big love as a child, and I think because Transformers has always been around is why I've still loved it. Obviously when I started to become a teenager and out of toys, and then I moved on to later life and getting into movies and stuff. Obviously Transformers has still been around at such a big point, so I think this has always been what has drawn me into toy collecting. Also Transformers, especially when you were a kid and the Transformers transformed like GoBots, but obviously the cartoon made it a little bit more stylish, and but they are still very plain, and it's still easy to do, which for kids, and it draws them in. Nowadays, when I've obviously started to get more, they're really hard. Obviously I'm looking at the instructions going like, Jesus, how do you do it? Some of them I figured out, some of them I can definitely tell, and I have the more expensive ones, they're really hard and you have to follow instructions. But I think that's why Transformers has always kind of been at the forefront of what I've been collecting, whether I've had the money or whether I've not had the money. Now obviously into my 40s and been recollecting for almost 10 years, and sort of loving Transformers since like for probably 35 years of my life. I think I've got a little bit oversaturated with everything that has come on with Transformers. That's why I don't think I collect as much, because obviously when you grew up, and when I grew up, you had G1 and that was what it is, and then obviously you had G2 and the other stuff, and obviously when I got back into it, you had Takara and Takara knockoffs and stuff, and that was it. It was kind of Hasbro or whoever had the license at the time were producing their Transformers, and then you had these kind of better looking ones that were cheaper because they were knockoffs and stuff, and that's what I would buy. Now there are so many third parties and so many more different, you're getting, literally, it feels like, they'll do a Devastator, an official Devastator, and then next year this company will do a next Devastator, and next year this will do a Devastator, and then you have to buy like 5 robots, and it's like £100 a robot, and it is just oversaturated now. It's like, well, how, there was choices when I first started collecting like 8, 9, 10 years ago, but now there's so much more and it's so much more expensive. And it's like, how many times can you buy the same robot over and over again, or even selling the ones you've got and then upgrading them? You're still losing money and it's still costing you stuff. That I think that was the point that Transformers hasn't become as popular for me. I do want to. I still buy from time to time. I still fill in little voids and stuff like I get. I've still gone back and collected like the Beast Wars series and the animated series, which I mostly have completed both of those now, which has made me really happy. It's because obviously I missed out on some of those as a kid. But I do. But that has kind of been what I collect. Obviously, Transformers has always been the main reason, or the main kind of my thought. It's kind of been always my stepping on and stepping off of toys. That was where it is, and that's why, because obviously it has always been around, and I think I have more enjoyment out of this. Now, obviously, when it's come to the point of getting back onto toys, obviously when I've had more money and when I've been into a more space, had your own space and had all these other opportunities in the internet and stuff like this is when you've started to go down. And I think, like a lot of people, or my mind process is, I want to reclaim a lot of stuff that I had as a kid. So I don't have many toys that I have as a kid. I have a few Transformers and a Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, because, as I said, as a kid I didn't have much money. We had the VHS, we watched it a lot, and that's why I have the connections to it. So that's why I buy like a lot of the stuff now. The main stuff is if I've watched it, like I have like when I have like a intro, so a cartoon intro from 80s and 90s, a toy list, and I try and get those DVDs if they're available, or Blu-rays if they've upgraded, and I try and get those toys as memories if it's something I watched a lot. So like He-Man, I was never really into the original He-Man, but I did really get into the 2000 and X series. So that's my He-Man. So that's why I bought all the stuff. Obviously, I have like some of the newer sketches, the newer designs from Masterverse and that. So I have bought a few of those, but for the most part, my main He-Man collection is 2000 X, and it's not everybody's taste, but I really love the series. I really love the animation, and that's my focus. I have thought about going it, but I just don't. I really like the designs and the style of the figures and stuff. It just does not appeal to me. So that's there. That, yes, there's a visual appeal thing. It's always been like with animation, and if it draws me in and it looks really good, even if the story is sometimes rubbish, that's normally what I go for. There have been sometimes the story has lured me in, and the art necessarily hasn't been to my taste, and I've warmed to it. But that's kind of where my focus normally is. It's like about, I'd say 70-80% is visual wise. I do it with comics. Every time I go to the comic store and flip through new ones. But yeah, so that's what I've done. And obviously Transformers has been my main one. Obviously then going back into it was Turtles and stuff. And I even found there's so much with Turtles and even different variations and stuff that now I have so many different variations that I'm like a bit oversaturated again with Transformers, so I've left it alone. Power Rangers, obviously loved Power Rangers as a kid, got back into it these past few years, and I've watched a lot of stuff, got into the Super Sentai, and that's why my figures are more Super Sentai than the American versions. But again, I'm just trying to complete the series up to Dino Fury, which was the last one, and that's kind of where I've put a kind of line into it, because I don't have much space of anything. I have moved stuff around, as you would know in the last video, and I think maybe this Christmas I may do another reshuffle. I may have another think to how I can make a bit more space, or maybe even move stuff around and sell some stuff, because I do have some really big Transformers and really big stuff that just sit there and don't take a lot of space, and maybe if I can get some money for them or use them for trades, who knows. But that is where my thinking of that. But yeah, so this kind of what I collect, that is kind of the what and whys. So yeah, that's Transformers always been, and then obviously bringing back my childhood. Obviously there are stuff like, as I say, and as you come across stuff like Swamp Thing, I really like that. There's not many figures, so you start collecting stuff like that. If it's a series that I kind of know about, so I always use Silverhawks as this one. So Silverhawks was a series I knew about and never really watched, so I bought the disc and I watched it last year or the year before, and I do have the Super 7 main figure, and I don't think the figure's that great. For Quicksilver, the main character with his hawk, but he sits there as like a placeholder in my 80s, and I don't need to get any more. That's kind of where it is. If I love the series, I will try and complete it, unless it's like really, really hard. Same way with turtles. Obviously, I don't have all the turtles, but I'm trying to collect the main turtles. Most of, or all of the movie ones except for the vehicles and stuff, and that for me then completes it. There's a few other Teenage Mutant Turtles figures I would like, because they do variations. The NECA ones are quite nice, and I want the movie freeze. But my kind of wants are, if I really love it, I will collect it. But I will collect it to if I did like it, I'll only collect like one or two unless I find some cheap. If I do love it, I will try and go for the whole wave unless it's really expensive, or try and go for a specific wave. If there's certain waves that I like, it will grow a bit bigger, but I do understand with size. Same way with, like, you'll see here, like, I'm a big fan of anime and I like Gundam, so I got these little models years ago of the 5 original Gundams. That's enough for me there. That's my favourite Gundams. Or Death Scythe #2 is my favourite Gundam. Natsu's Gundam Wing is great. I have the DVD and I've rewatched it and enjoyed it still, and I have those figures, and that's enough for me. I don't need to then spread out into the universe. But yeah, what do you collect and why? Let me know in the comments down below. Hope you enjoyed this episode 2 of Talking Toys. I've been Cypher Sigma, and I shall see you in the next one.